Okay. Hi, Sherilee. Thank you so much for joining me today.
Hi, Loretta. Thanks so much for having me.
And I wanted to start off just by getting you to introduce yourself for everyone, a little bit about just what you do, and then we'll get into talking a little bit more about your journey specifically.
Yeah, sure. So I guess you could describe me as a movement enthusiast. I've been teaching movement for 10 years now, and I absolutely love it. It has definitely evolved over the years, and now it's predominantly Pilates and more recently yoga. Yeah, and I've really loved exploring this infusion of yoga and Reiki, and really embodying that experience and then sharing it with others as well, which has been really amazing. So yeah, that's kind of where I'm at the moment and really focusing on, and really enjoying that.
I love that. I love the movement specialist. It's so, I remember in many of your sessions with me, like our Reiki sessions, so many times I would tell you like, oh yeah, I was moving, or I felt like you needed to move, and I was moving your body and things like that. Like it was very clear, it was very obvious that movement and you are like, yeah, it is something that you're really passionate about, and something that is one of your gifts, definitely, to embodying that, working with movement, and of course sharing it as well. So I wanted to ask you, I'm going to take you back a little bit now, because you've just mentioned that you infuse movement with Reiki, and that doesn't just look like Pilates. Obviously, it's the yoga, and there's lots of other stuff than just Reiki that comes into play there. But if I can take you back about 18 months now, when you a little bit over the 18 months, but taking you back when I first met you. So it was January 2020.
Yes.
So you popped in to do your level 1 with me. Can you talk a little bit about, I guess, what driver did you feel was there to really encourage you and pulled you into Reiki, into learning Reiki in the first place?
Yeah, definitely. So just a little bit of a lead up to what brought me to Reiki. I opened a small Pilates studio. It was Reformer Pilates, inside a space that I was already working inside a gym. And it was magical. Absolutely loved it. And it was more than just Pilates. And at the time, I didn't really know what was happening or how to describe it, but my sessions would always invoke a lot of emotion within people, and I just loved it. It was so beautiful. And like I said, I didn't know it at the time, but when I look back and reflect on it, I actually think I was channeling like unconditional love, so Reiki, into my sessions. So even before I'd found you, I feel like I was being pulled towards you to learn Reiki. So yeah, I had this studio. It was beautiful. Loved the creativity that I was able to bring into it. Loved the freedom of that, because it was my own space. I could bring whatever I wanted to and really explore that. So about 5 months in, the space that I was leasing actually sold, and a new owner came in, and she was very different to the previous owner, and she initially proposed that we go into a partnership. And I could see that we were very different people, and I could also see that she had already, I guess, started causing some conflict with long-term staff members. And I just could see that a partnership was not going to work, and it really wasn't the path that I wanted to go down. And after I declined the offer, things got a little bit messy. So I spent a while making a decision about how I was going to move forward. And I didn't really see any other way than to move away from that space, which is really obviously very difficult for me to do, because I put my whole heart into building this studio for a start. And, you know, well, most of you probably know how much work goes into launching a business, and preparation, the money that's involved. And I'd created something that I loved. So it was really hard to let go of that. And initially, you know, I looked around for other spaces to lease. I was actually in talks with opening a second studio at that point as well. So I'd considered just moving to the second space. And then I looked at a few other places that were close by, but nothing felt right. And I didn't really know why at the time. So I was in this little bit of area of limbo, and that was in January. So I'd closed the space. I was storing the reformers at my house, kind of figuring out what was next for me. And I felt so lost and just completely broken. And I had no idea how to move forward. And that was when I decided that I felt like I needed to do some work, and I needed to heal from this. So that's when I reached out to you, and I did level 1 in January. And that's where my journey began. Yeah, so I sat with that for a bit, level 1, and started bringing Reiki into my life and doing my daily practice. And, you know, going back to those feelings of being unsure about opening another space and where that was going to be really started to make sense, because it was not long after we were in lockdown. So, you know, something was telling me not to move forward, and I believe that that's obviously why. So yeah, that's why I was drawn to you and Reiki.
So did you feel, I guess, that Reiki, you know, you talked about feeling lost, feeling really broken at that particular time in your life. Do you feel like learning Reiki and learning how to kind of cultivate that connection helped you to I guess find, you know, a little bit of, you talked about the clarity of, okay, now I understand why, you know, things happened. I guess not just the clarity, but it sounds as well that there was this confidence in just trusting in the universe, like that, okay, I'm being led down this path for some reason or another. Can you talk about any of the other kind of benefits, I guess, you felt like you got just even at that level 1 stage, helping you through that time in your life?
Yeah. So I guess it helped me sit with myself, and start to look a bit deeper at what it actually was that I wanted moving forward. So I actually spent about 6 months trying to figure that out. And, you know, obviously
it's a big question. Yeah, it's a really big question. You know, what is it that I really want? I think most people struggle with that. Most of us get to a point in our lives where we realize that, I know many of my students who come in, especially at Reiki level 1, they're kind of there and they're asking that question, like, I don't actually know what I want. I've spent my whole life being someone else or just doing something that, and I don't even know how I got here. And then, you know, the questions start to deepen, and and I guess that's, you know, it's a really common question, like, what is it that I really want? Yeah.
So you know, I ended up opening a little home studio for about a month, and then we were in lockdown. So I took it online for a little bit as well, which was really great. Gave me a chance to practice that aspect as well, of taking things online and what that would look like for me. Obviously it wasn't on the reformer, because at that stage not many people had reformers in their houses. So it was more of like mat Pilates, some stretch work, maybe a little bit more intense work as well. So I explored that as well. And yeah, just really kind of sat with myself and tried to figure out what was next. And then I think it was around July that I was drawn to do level 2. So yeah, I did level 2, was in lockdown at that point. And then immediately after doing level 2, I was a day after, I was like, oh my God, I need to keep going. So it was the next weekend that I did level 3A. And then I was into my Mastership. I was like, this is it. This is what I'm doing. So
Can
yeah.
you explain, I guess, how that felt like in terms of, I guess, the decision to do level 2, and then there was hardly any decision to do 3A or Mastership. I remember you just dropping into my inbox and saying, I'm in, like I'm in, I've got to do this, and I'm doing it now. Like,
yeah. Yeah. Look, there was obviously a bit of a gap between level 1 and level 2. But there was a lot happening there as well. And I guess level 2 was like, all right, I really want to deepen this spiritual connection and this connection to myself, and I want to know myself better. Yeah. So that's why I went for level 2. And then after doing that, I sat with it for a day, and then all of a sudden, while I was reflecting on level 2, I was like, yeah, okay, I really want to go deeper with this. And I would, like I said, I don't really know how to describe it other than this really strong pull.
Yeah.
And I think that's exactly what I said to you. I was like, okay, so I've got this really strong urge to keep going. Like, when's the next level? And you were like, well, it's next week. And I was like, okay. So yeah. And then a similar thing happened after level 3A. And it's actually really funny. I was reflecting the other day that I don't know if you recall, but in my level 3A, I was having these jolts in my healing, and I didn't know what it was. And I've just realized it was like a Kundalini awakening. Yeah. And I had no idea until a couple of days ago that that's what it was.
I love that. That's so beautiful.
Yeah. Because it started happening again with my yoga practice. It's a little more subtle this time. No jolts. But yeah, so that's amazing in itself. Like, and it took all that time for me to realize what it actually was.
Yeah, I think often we don't know a lot about, like, can't logically explain a lot of stuff unless you would have maybe studied it, or you would have been told that this is what to look out for. But it's really hard with our spiritual experiences because awakenings or activations look different for everybody, and it's hard to know. I can totally relate in that, often something will happen and then I'm like, I don't know what that is. And then it's not until I'll be maybe talking to someone else or having that experience, or, that you are reading it somewhere and I'm like, oh my God, that happened to me, or I can totally relate. That's the experience that I'm having, or whatever. So it's, I think, just as you did though, you just kind of went with it and just, okay, I'm just going with it. I'm just enjoying. It feels good. It feels right. Like, I'm just going to keep going with it. It's really cool. I love that. I love it so much. And at this point, did you feel like you wanted to share this gift of Reiki? Like, did you feel like you actually wanted to practice with others? When did you make that kind of decision?
Oh, when did I make that decision? I think it was after level 3. And then, yeah, I did start sharing with some of my existing clients that I was seeing online for Pilates. And yeah, the feedback from that was actually really amazing as well. One of them has a very strong science background. So she was open to it, but, not a believer of spiritual things. And I actually have her testimonial, and that's a really great testimonial from someone who doesn't know how to explain what happened to her. but she just felt like, she said she felt like she needed healing, and she was really emotional through the experience and really going through some deep stuff at the time. So yeah, I feel like that was massive for me, having that experience with her and what she received from it. Yeah, so I think, it was in level 3A that made me realize I wanted to share what I was receiving, because I loved it.
Yeah.
It was just amazing. And I was like, I just, it's such a beautiful gift. And it should be shared.
Yes, that's so beautiful. I love that. It is really cool, isn't it, when people who tend to be way more science-based and logical, and seeing them open and trusting a little bit more into the magic of something without needing to understand it all. We really just ask in Reiki, right, that you just be open, just be open to receiving. That's all you need. You don't have to understand it, because most of the time we can't understand it, can we? So then you started your mastership with me, and we did it over fortnightly frequency. So we did fortnightly. Can you talk a little bit about the decision to do it fortnightly rather than weekly, or anything else, and how that kind of fit in with where you were at, and just the experience that you got through that?
Well, I guess initially I chose fortnightly because I was in a management role at the time, and quite busy with that. So fortnightly worked a little bit better for me to be able to allow that time. And I mean, I know that we started in lockdown, but then when we're able to see each other again, I did travel to see Loretta in person, and I live a little bit further away from where she is, so it takes about an hour to get there. So yeah, it was about allowing that time, and I really enjoyed the fortnightly sessions because it allowed me that reflection time in between seeing you, and it really allowed me to think about what was coming up for me in those 2 weeks before our next session.
Yeah, sometimes I guess to explain the general experience during a session, during the Mastership, there is an activation that takes place in each of the sessions, and sometimes it can be pretty intense, right? Sometimes.
Yeah.
Some weeks, not all weeks, but yeah, some sessions can be intense. So so you receive a symbol, a sacred symbol, and the symbol acts as like this activation, and it sort of works with you, doesn't it? It's like works with you over the period until you receive like the next one, and you have no idea what the symbol means. It's just a pattern that's kind of shown to you and activated within you, and you're free to kind of connect with it at a deep level. And whether or not you consciously connect or not doesn't matter, does it? I remember some weeks that you were like, oh, I didn't really feel connected to that one, or there were other weeks, some were more than deeper connections than others, but regardless, there's always something going on in the background, like so on that unconscious level. It's like, yeah, of course that was showing up for me. Of course that lesson's playing up this week, or whatever. Do you want to just, if you feel comfortable sharing, I'd love you to just to share any significant moments, I guess, from the Mastership, any significant growth, periods of growth, and things that you feel like, I guess, really made the difference to you, and where you are at now.
Yeah. So I mean, there were definitely some weeks where I would come straight in and be like, oh my God, what was that? Because that was horrible. And then when you would explain it to me, I'd be like, oh, okay, that makes complete sense. I'm trying to think specifically, but there were definitely a lot of times where, you know, what the symbol sort of represented was actually happening for me in real time in those couple of weeks in between seeing you. Yeah, so that was really, really interesting and profound, actually. There were definitely some really hard times coming up toward the end of my mastership. And I think that's probably because, you know, I really started to reflect and think about what I still needed to work on, what I needed to work through. And I know that there was a lot of resistance to this particular thing that kept coming up for me. And every time it came up, I'd be like, nope, I'm not going there. This is not happening. And then, yeah, I had this realization. I was like, you know, I'm here. I'm committing myself to doing the work. So if I don't look at this, what is it all for? I'm still going to have this one thing sitting there that I'm not willing to deal with. And that's why I'm here. So, yeah, working through that was quite difficult. And I'm still working through that. It's not a quick fix, that one. But I was open to looking at it and exploring it. And up until then, I kept pushing it away. Yeah.
And that's huge, right? That's huge. I think, I mean, some of our biggest wounds, you know, our biggest challenges, you know, our most limiting beliefs and fears and all of that kind of stuff, and the shadow aspects, whatever you are kind of working with, some of the biggest ones that have the most influence over our life, or are the most painful, I guess, they're not quick fixes. And, you know, there is no, it's not like as soon as you making the decision, first of all, to look at it is huge, and such a big part of the actual healing that's involved. But once we begin, it's really just acknowledging that, okay, what I'm doing every time I'm showing up for myself and working through this is I really am just peeling back another layer, right? It's just another layer and another layer. And I know that, and I'm trusting that things just continue to get better, right? They just continue to become more clearer, and they become, I'm learning something more each and every time. I think if we, and we quickly learn that, don't we? Like you know, you've done this enough now that you realize that once you've worked through one thing, it's not the end. Like it's not the end. And you know, often people will say, well, then what's the point? Like, if this is just a continuous kind of, I guess, journey that we keep having to work through this stuff, I think that, you know, it's probably something that we have to remember, that the more that we commit to being the best version of ourselves, to commit to self-mastery, which is what the Mastership is all about, right? It's about giving you this opportunity to be held and to work through things that will help you to master the self, to reconnect with your truth and be that best version that you can be. And when we return to reconnect to the truth, I mean, that is reconnecting to pure consciousness, to enlightenment. And that it's not just a quick fix. It's not just something that you can show up for one Reiki session or one yoga class or doing one meditation and think that, okay, well, this is done now. Like I'm healed, I'm fully healed, and I've reconnected to who I am, and I'll be on my way. I think as well that our actual living comes from being in this journey, doesn't it?
Absolutely. My goodness, I've evolved and grown so much through all of this, and my life doesn't look the same as what it did 18 months ago, that's for sure. And I'm really grateful for that, because I guess, in all honesty, what I was looking for within this, taking away all of the BS and all of the layers, was a deeper connection spiritually and to myself. And that is absolutely what I've got. Every day I have a daily practice that I have to do. And if I don't do it, nothing sits right with me. And to the point now that even my husband notices. He's like, you haven't done your practice today, have you? And even him understanding how important this is for me, how important to do the work is for me, is huge.
Yeah.
His level of awareness of what I need. It's amazing. It's amazing.
I love that. I love that so much. And I remember there were, that was also part of your learning through the Mastership, wasn't it?
Yeah.
Because there would be times where you would fall off the bandwagon, you would stop doing things, or you would try, you try to do one thing and not another, and all of this sort of stuff. And I remember you having these realizations that, you know what, it's just a non-negotiable. Your self-care and your self-nourishment, your self-movement, your self-practices, like all this stuff. I remember how big that was when you actually realized for the first time, I think, like, oh my God, if I do not put myself first, like it is actually dangerous. Like it is dangerous for not for just for me, but the people that are closest to me too, right? Yeah. And then you were reminded of that sometimes, weren't you? How important it was for you to put yourself first, and how important it was for you to really reconnect to what you need and give yourself what you need. But I love that you've been able to realize that, and that you're in this place now where you're committed to it, and you reap the benefits of that. And I notice how different your energy is. I remember there would be days when you'd walk in and I'd be like, wow, your energy is so different this week. Your energy, so you can just tell, you can really just tell. So in terms of, I guess you mentioned like it feels so different. What about that clarity about what it is that you want? Do you feel like that has become more and more clear to you?
It is clear. I'm not there yet.
But you know what it is that you want now.
Yeah, I do. And everything that I do now has a purpose, and there is a reason for it. And I feel like I'm kind of still figuring out exactly what this looks like for me. And I do not doubt at all that I will figure it out and I will find it. I'm just not there yet. But every day I'm learning, I'm taking it in, and I know that it's coming to this point where it's all just going to come together, and it will just be this amazing whatever it is.
I love that so much. I love that. Also, just this idea, and listening to you talk, like you can just the trust that you have in the ability to let go and just trust that, because you have this, you really have this sense of and confirmation, this universal validation that all you need to do is keep taking that aligned action, which you are, and know that it's all falling into place exactly as it needs to, and at a time that that is going to be perfect as well.
Exactly. And along the way I'm getting little signs and little gifts from the universe that is leading me to whatever that is, and I know that that's what they are.
So good. So good. I love it. So Sherilee, can you share with everybody, I guess, where they can find you and just some of the services that you offer and how people can work with you as well?
Yeah, sure. So probably the best way to connect is on social media, and it's literally my Instagram handle is just my name, Sherilee.Chaffer. I have got a small Pilates studio at home, which obviously currently I can't see people in person. I do Reiki. I do group yoga in some studios when we're allowed to, but I also do private yoga sessions as well. And it's the yoga that I perform is not, it's not modern yoga. There's a lot of breath work, a lot of pranayama in there, and there's Reiki infused in as well. So yeah, it's really about tailoring it to what you are wanting. And it's just really, it's really gentle, really soft, working on, you know, that balance of masculine and feminine energy, and really embracing what it is that's you need to work on specifically for you.
Love it. So beautiful. It's amazing. And I did just want to ask, just to finish up, because many people bring together, I guess, movement and spiritual practices and things like that. How do you feel Reiki has complemented your Pilates? You mentioned at the beginning that you felt like you were already channeling. And I remember in one of our very early on in the Mastership, you had that realization with me and you were like, I think I was channeling. And it was so beautiful because, again, I guess it was like this realization about the Kundalini activation, the same sort of thing. It's like, oh, actually, this is what was happening for me. And so you've always kind of had it in you already. And I guess, how have you found that formalizing your practices and things like that? How do you now find that bringing those together has, you know, made them more effective, or has changed them, or I guess allows you to teach the way and share your gifts the way that is really in reflection of who you are as well?
I guess one thing I found now that I teach yoga, I always have been a student of yoga and never thought I'd actually teach it because it was the one thing that I wanted to keep for myself. But last year I was called to do my 200 hour. And then I'm now doing another yoga teacher training, which is a 12-month mentorship, and it's really taken me that level deeper, and it's really connected Reiki and yoga together for me because it's a lot of chakra work, and I guess it's allowed me that invitation to start exploring those two realms together, and really feeling into the body and feeling what it is that I need, what my clients need. And even, you know, if I'm doing group classes, it's invoking that awareness within them because they probably don't quite have that awareness or not at that level yet. But it's just inviting that awareness in and invoking it within their bodies. So yeah, I really feel like in Pilates, it was a little bit more difficult throughout the classes to bring Reiki into it. It was more of like at the beginning of the practice and at the end of the practice was just bringing that awareness into your body, and then at the beginning and at the end. But through yoga, it's all throughout. So yeah, just exploring what works for me and trusting whatever comes is meant to come, because it, like I said, it's bringing me to that final point. And yeah, I really feel like that infusion of yoga and Reiki is what it is for me. That's what I'm meant to be teaching, and that's what I'm meant to be doing. And really embodying that has been absolutely amazing. I can't even really describe it. I just love it. And I know that's what I'm here for.
Oh, I love that so much. And I can feel it. Like I can feel how just there is such a difference when someone stands there and just owns their, you know, what their truth is and what, when they're in alignment. And I can just feel it. It's so beautiful. It's so beautiful. And to be able to sit here on the other side, you know, of your level one, and to be able to, you know, sit here with you at the end of your Mastership, which you just finished up a couple of weeks ago, and just hearing you talk like this and hearing you share and just really own your gifts and have this clarity about why you're here and the type of work that you're here to do. And it's so, I can't tell you how amazing it is to be able to sit here and witness that. Thank you so much, Sherilee, and thank you for sharing your light. Thank you so much for not giving up, right?
Thank you. Yeah. And I mean, I can definitely understand like how rewarding it must be for you as well, because I know what I was back then compared to now. And it's just, oh, it's completely different. And it's yeah, that whole experience of doing all of the Reiki work with you has just guided me to who I'm meant to be. And that's just amazing. Going from being lost, completely lost, to being and knowing who I am is just amazing.
That's so beautiful. Thank you so much for sharing your story. And I will tag all your details in, and please get in touch with Sherilee if you feel called to work with her. Also, if you're feeling like you want to talk to her more about infusing, I guess, yoga practices and Reiki together and all that kind of stuff, or just in general. Thank you so much. Mwah. Enjoy your day.